Hello and welcome to today's League of Legends news and notes. I do this weekly, covering the major news that happened in the four major regions. When it comes to, the main teams, not the academy teams. Not a lot happened this past week. We had a lot of information on last week's board. All that really happened was Cloud9 confirming Jensen to mid, so we'll go over that a little bit. And then I also have a couple things from CBLOL on here. Obviously, a lot of my followers are from Brazil, so I figured I should probably incorporate some of that into my channel. And what better day than today when I really don't have much to do when it comes to news and notes. If you are from a smaller region, I know I have a few Turkish followers, a few Vietnamese followers, and you want me to cover news and notes in your region, I will do a second video, during the week, overall going forward. That incorporates CBLOL, PCS, VCS, TCL, and so on and so forth. If you want me to do that, if you feel like you're not up to date on the news in your region all the time. And at least, I think it'll help me too in finding out more about these players as things go along. Obviously, going into MSI, like I said, I didn't watch a single game of the smaller regions play. So all the players were brand new to me. I'll at least be familiar with the players and what type of player they might be without watching them. But by doing this. So, news and notes. C9 signed Jensen. It's official. Fudge is going top. Summit is out the door. Apparently, Summit was rumored to possibly go to TSM, but C9 blocked it. If that happened, that's Bush League. I really think that there are a lot of things wrong in the league ecosystem when it comes to player movement. Obviously, Reckless being a very clear-cut example, getting screwed and forced to go to the minor regions in Europe. Obviously the LFL is very popular. He did very well in the LFL, but I also believe Reckless should be a major region 80 carry. So Summit doesn't get what he deserves. Right now he's unemployed. Jensen goes mid, Sven goes support. Like I've said a couple times, I'm going to do a separate video on that probably early next month, where I look at Jin Zhao, Core JJ, and a few others and see how ADs to supports usually go. Just thinking of those two examples, Jin Zhao struggles, Core JJ became a world champion. So we have both ends of the spectrum. So Jensen to mid. Last year with TL, Jensen, his KDA was not as strong as Fudge's was this past year. However, he farmed slightly better, not much better. Both are under 9, which is about where LCS usually sits when it comes to mid laners. KP, Fudge, obviously more active than Jensen. As you recall, early on in the split, especially with LS as coach, they played Enchanters mid. That allowed Fudge to get more kill participation playing as a second support. When it comes to pure skill in mid lane, which you can't really take anything away from Fudge, it was his first split in mid. But Jensen has high kill potential in general. When it comes to kill share, his is near 27%, where Fudge's is 22%. I will say Jensen does get more gold. He usually gets 2% more gold share than Fudge, which does matter. And obviously those support games affect that number. Another important thing to note, Jensen plays less champions than Fudge generally. Jensen's more of a control mage guy. The Syndras, the Orianas, the Azirs, some LeBlanc. LeBlanc isn't a control mage necessarily, but you know what I'm getting at. Where Fudge is, a top laner. So he does play the Oriana, the Syndra and stuff, but he also can get kind of freaky in mid, which gave C9 some pizzazz. However, I do think, preliminarily, without looking really at the numbers for everybody else, I would say C9 is officially a Worlds team. Not a Worlds Championship contender. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that they should make Worlds. They're a top 3 team in North America on paper right now. Even if Sven doesn't do great, I think that Berserker is plenty good enough to get the job done. And we'll get more into that, obviously, early next month when I preview the regions going into summer and things like that. I won't do daily videos going over the teams, but I will probably rank the teams, do my power rankings again. I am thinking of doing a cumulative power rankings where I incorporate the smaller regions. Obviously, I won't be watching any of the smaller regions play, but I feel like a few stats may give me a good indicator of who's good and who's not just outright. Um, and then we can go from there. I think it would cause a lot of discussion in the comments. I enjoy talking in the comments. If you haven't noticed, I respond to almost every comment. Um, I enjoy talking league. I really do. Even though I have a couple people that, are a bit critical. Um, I don't really mind it too much, as long as it's based in fact and people watch the video so they know my complete opinion and don't just like hear a bit of my opinion and then, a couple videos later, like for instance, with Saigon Buffalo, early on, I had Big Koro as the AD carry. He was listed as the AD carry. Find out Shogun is actually going to MSI. I knew Shogun had played for the Saigon in the VCS this past split, and I brought them up the rankings as a result in my Group A predictions. Now, did I say they were going to make it to Rumble stage? No, I was off on that. I thought Den Nation Focus, me and Saigon Buffalo played a great 2 games against each other. Arguably 2 of probably the best 3 games in the entire group stage. So I don't feel, like I was that far off with that. Now CBLOL news. Croc ends up leaving Netshoes Miners. Croc, a Korean import. He is swapped out for Hugato. Hugato had a very strong KDA compared to Croc when it comes to Academy. However, it is Academy, and I have to imagine that CBLOL Academy is quite a drop-off, especially when you look at smaller regions. Very top-heavy generally, and I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I will say he's a little more active on the Rift. However, their stats are very similar, so if this was a cost-saving move, I could understand it. He plays less champions than Croc, which is a bit concerning, but I don't think that this move, if they did go internally to replace Croc, would be all that terrible. You can barely read this here when it comes to what Loud did. Loud, Tay, and DudstheBoy both left. Now, this is more interesting when I look at it on paper with the stats. Anel 1 is a little bit better than Tay. However, their CS per minute is exactly the same, but Tay is a lot less active on the Rift. Now, I don't know if Loud wasn't that great this past split and didn't create a lot of early game opportunities or many fights in general, but Anel had a KP like 7% higher. His kill potential, his kill share was lower. Tay did more in kill share. However, their gold was pretty similar. So, I guess you almost are going to change the way you play the game if you end up going internally and putting in an L1 instead of Tay, the KP being much higher. When it comes to DudstheBoy and Brant's, Brant's KD is a lot higher. CS per minute's pretty similar. Their other stats are pretty similar. However, I will say DudstheBoy, his champion pool was very limited. He only played 5 champions this past split, where Brant's, I believe, played 8 or 9, which I think is a big deal. I think a player that's willing to play more than a handful of champions is somebody you want on your team. It allows you a lot of flexibility, especially in these smaller regions. I feel like flexibility is a good trait to have. When it comes to draft, you can just outdraft your opponent and win the game that way. Now, lastly, my Red Canid fans, Avenger left Red Canids, at least according to Leaguepedia. Grevthar is now the only mid. We did believe Avenger went with them to work, MSI, so he must have left after they returned, or after the tournament. So, obviously, everybody's told me a lot about Grevthar. Grevthar is not really great in lane, but he affects the Rift in other ways. And honestly, this past tournament, I didn't think he was all that bad. I thought Gigo was more of a problem than Grevthar in these games, which makes sense. That's why you guys were swapping out Patao for Gigo in the split. So Avenger. Avenger's KD is not as good. His CS is better, but not all that. I mean, his CS is quite significantly better. I mean, it's almost 3 every 2 minutes. Um, KP is lower, but what really caught my eye is that champion pool. If it, I mean, Avenged or Avenger, I feel maybe his name was Avenger. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I don't know why I would have swapped the R for the D. It's early in the morning. Um, 10 out of 10 champions. A different champion every game. Like I just said with Loud, that is a massive thing. Like, that is huge. To be able to have flexibility, to have a player willing to be that flexible, to be able to allow yourself to play all sorts of different compositions, and all of a sudden, you have a little bit of freakiness and pizzazz that other teams don't have. I almost am interested to see how this team would have looked with him in the lineup versus Greftar. I understand, oh, we're all buddies, we're all friends, we've been friends for years. When push comes to shove, you need to put the best team on the Rift you can, and I am just curious how the team would have looked with a guy that is willing to play everything in mid. Now, it could have went the order direction. Kisei in mid is very similar to in my opinion, when it comes to champion pool, to Avenged, in that he's willing to play 80 mids and things like that, and I think that that would have been a thing that would have been nice to see out of Red, or at least an option. I mean, but we're going to get into that tomorrow. Tomorrow's video is going to be me covering the teams that didn't make it, my thoughts on them, because I hadn't watched them prior to this tournament. Red, DFM, Order, Istanbul Wildcats, and Team Ace. Those 5 teams I'm going to cover tomorrow. Give a little bit of a spiel, not even probably have much on this board, if at all, besides the team names, and just kind of go off the cuff about what I feel about them going forward. If I think that maybe, was this a beneficial experience for them? Did they grow throughout the tournament? And how I expect them maybe to return to their region. Are they going to return at Worlds, or do I think that they're kind of something like that. Predictions are going to be Wednesday or Thursday. I haven't decided yet. The other day, I'm going to do a preview of what my power rankings might look like this summer. I'm trying to get all the stats done for all the minor regions to kind of formulate them and kind of just see how it turns out. It's like an experiment. And if the experiment looks okay, on Wednesday or Thursday, if I get enough viewers from the smaller regions, I can say, oh, well, this team is actually better than this team. This algorithm should work. It would be nice to do to compare the smaller regions against each other. Just something for the minor region guys. Comment down below if you have an opinion of your own on C9. If you're a CBLOL fan, if you have an opinion on Netshoes Miners, Loud, or Red Canids. Subscribe to the channel if you want daily League of Legends content. I do content every single day, some way, shape, or form, about something. And hope you come back for more content.